system or whatever in place and on deadlines or whatever comments they've made. So thank you, Taylor. All good. Please use the chat or please speak up. I don't mind being interrupted. I don't mind being questioned. So please speak up or pop it in the chat if you have any questions. Any, like I said, any admin stuff, please reach out to your specific lecturer about that. As from my side, there isn't really much. I mean, my people know about iStars and stuff, so I'll leave that for now. Okay, cool. So today's session, it's going to be a little, I hope it's as good as I hope in my head. I really do hope so. And also, because I told all the other lecturers, and you'll see some of them on here, it's also nerve-wracking for us when your colleagues are in the same room. And I told them, I'm really looking forward to this. But I also thought, let me take on the first one, and take on the nerves. So today's session is really kind of, I know that some of us might be indifferent. We all use the same term planner like this, or some might have reformatted it or edited in other classes, but the content should more or less be the same. So we all follow the same planner, but within that we might have done this differently. Maybe I should just keep it up for a second. Might have all done this a little bit differently. So I mean, this session is supposed to be focused on just this kind of theme and outcome, but I hope you don't mind. I'm going to try to, I've already touched on some of this with my class just a little bit. So I'm actually going to do a little bit of the entire learning it. You'll see what I mean. Just stick with me. If I'm losing you or confusing you or frustrating you, just shout. And I'm happy to listen. Always. Okay, let's get into it. So I'm going to run through some of the kind of the theory stuff. I'm going to go through it rather quickly. I hope you don't mind that my take on teaching might be different to others' take on teaching. I'm not going to read the theory to you because I think you are grown. You especially are not a bunch of first years. So I'm not going to read the textbook to you, and that has never been, I want to say, what I'm good at. So for me, it's about like, how do you apply the theory? So how do we make it relevant for you? Um, and I'll get to, I should have put it in the beginning, but I left it at the end, like how this whole thing evolved. Like it's my own little personal example, which I'll show you now. And I was thinking like how, because we've all been dealing with this one case study, the Male and Guardian case study. And I don't like teaching to the assignment or to just that one case study. I think now we're all just stuck on the one viewpoint. So a few weeks ago, we used AI to talk about ethics. And so today I'd like to use some other scenarios to talk about um, these kind of contemporary influences on who controls education and on the roles of teachers and the competence of teachers. So bear with my crazy and I hope it all makes sense at the end. Okay. Oh, I hope it does. So just the same thing I was showing you earlier on, just to show you where we're at in terms of the learning unit and the outcome. So this over here, I don't want to say it, but this part over here, theme two. Oh, sorry, let me go back. Sorry. Too excited with the clicker. Let me just get my pointer out. Sorry. Um, so this part over here, I think is actually what I'm speaking to today, where I want you to feel something. Is that weird to say? I want you to feel something. I feel like that's always how like education happens when something moves you. And by that, I mean, we're going to use some practical examples at the end. And I want you to think about what your role is as a teacher. Because it's quite easy in this case study to dismiss, like there's no mention of the teacher. Many people to blame, the state. I think it's easy to just keep blaming the school and the principal. I'm not saying they're not wrong, but it's really like, and that's all then, like we dismiss the lesson from the whole case study because we're just focusing on, oh, they did something wrong, but no one questions, like, should the teacher have done something? Were there not teachers that saw that the tree was a bit suspicious? So there's the teachers, so there's another side, which I think, like I said, speaks a lot to this part over here, your personal manifesto and objectives around being a teacher, which I don't think are covered like by just focusing on the case study. So just a very quick overview. So historically, where does control of education come from? We used like these main theorists. There are more. If you look in your textbook, there are quite a few, but I guess the most influential, if you're looking at Plato, and I'm gonna go into more detail on each of them now. Plato, who looks at state control, Locke, parental control, Adeyemi, Adeyemka, community control, Mill, liberal conception, and Gutman on democracy. Some of the main kind of influences on where the control of education should be. Again, this is all in your textbook, so I'm not going to read each point to you, but just for kind of very, I mean, the story is quite nice, so you can go read that yourself. Around, I've got my own stories to tell you. So around Plato's cave and the ignorance to knowledge. Um, but I mean, immediately when you look, if you read through some of these, just do a quick scroll through orderly social system, performs the functions according to the place in society. The state should be in control because it has the best interests of society in mind, provides the good life. I love that. So, I mean, just stop there and now let's think about the Mail and Guardian, probably the easiest one to reflect on. Like if you think about the Mail and Guardian article in relation to that third bullet point, then someone's like, okay, so it was the state's fault because they should have been responsible and they should take responsibility for something that did happen. Like easy answer. Um, but we could go on. We could look at Locke. And we could say, well, according to Locke, it's the parents who should. So, I mean, oh, but the parents weren't at school, and during the day, it's parentis locus, where the school's responsible and should act. And I know this came up a lot. I don't know about the other lecturers, but in my responses to the assignment, this came up quite often. And there was not until I had a nice debate with one of my students offline, um, where I think it landed, maybe. I don't know if he's here and if he's going to say anything. But everyone kept referring to, what's his name? Is it Sibeko? Should know that off by heart by now. The SGB member was complaining about the tree, but he complained about it for security reasons. And people were saying that he had cited it as a thing. And I think there's some mention of the tree being old, but that his actual recommendation was around the safety and security committee being formed. And so I thought that was like it's a really a nice debate around like the role of parents, within the school. It's easy to say it's a school's responsibility, but there is another role around the governing body, and that the parents could have had some influence around safety and security. Ubuntu, I think lots of you in my class at least got this in the assignment. Always frowned upon, always seen as some kind of like an African only thing, which I don't like. um, yeah, yeah, I'm gonna that one. Um, you should know it. And then Mo, the liberal conception, where individuals have power to reason and choose, they can determine the education they desire. Society should not reward conformity. So if you think about some of these, this is interesting, the last one. But if you think about some of these in relation to the case study, well, this would probably be the answer, no? Like, oh, that would resolve a lot if people had more autonomy over school and over education. And also speaks a lot to where education is going now, individualized learning paths, etc. So yes, sure. Are you gonna talk? Please talk. Don't. Oh, it's an accident. Oh, you know how lonely, how desperate we are on this side of the radio station for you people to say we are desperate. Us on this side of the radio. Okay, so all I'm trying to achieve here is just to kind of remind you of the background because this you should know, you should have gone through. Again, just the overview. Remember, this wasn't the point. So just to go through some of that. No, not your bad. You just got me excited, Charlie. I thought you were gonna say something. Um, so yeah, the idea is that obviously you must understand the theorist, but now for me, it's like the implications of that, which is what I'm trying to speak to. Um, and I'm trying to merge it, so I don't think I'm confusing you too much by jumping over to the roles. Then I'm going back now. I'm not trying to confuse you. But as I said in the beginning, I'm trying to understand for you to understand, like in this context of who controls education, and in this context of the state expecting you to fulfill certain roles and have certain competencies. If you look at them at face value, and this is often where I get tripped up. Sorry, not these. Sorry. Yeah, I just want to say this is my focus. So I put the slide in here. Sorry. I know why I put it in there. If you look at these roles, at face value, how do I say this? It sounds devoid from the reality of teaching. Like it sounds like this is like admin stuff. I don't know how to explain it. Like this is like a tick box, you know. But I don't think that people ever unpack what this means for what school really is, which is quite hard. It's never like rosy and easy and free flowing. I didn't start off by giving you my CV. I often do so that people know that I know that I think I know what I'm talking about. I've taught a lot, taught for a whole lot for many for many years, and um, yeah, I know schools. So, and I remember once sitting with some um they were just being sneaky. Actually, I remember the grade 11. They had to like they had to shadow someone in their job. And then these two, but I mean, they were so cute, grade 11, like these two pure boys. I don't mean cute, like nice, but good kids. I think they just couldn't get somebody in time to go shadow. They actually had to like not be at school that day. And then they rocked up there and like, we really want to be teachers. Can we please shadow you? And you know, talking nonsense. Um, but nonetheless, we went to edit it. And like in one of the conversations, I was trying to tell them, because I think someone was phoning me. Oh, I almost my wife, but I don't know if I was married. But anyway, someone was important, was for me. I had to go do something else. This other like student needed something, and they were saying like, anyway, I got to a point where I was telling them like 50% of the job is not like the curriculum and the teaching, like the textbook that you're teaching to the class. It's the everything else. It's the time outside, sports field, the interactions there, the time at break. All of those have a knock-on effect on what it is like in the classroom. Within the classroom, there's a lot more happening than just teaching the syllabus. And for me, that's always kind of been a big thing to impart here with you, on you. Um, and so I'm now hoping that these examples I'm going to give you are going to illustrate the point I'm trying to make. And the same thing goes for the competencies as well. It kind of really ties in to some of this, but I think the examples are more fun. So let's get there. If you let me. Sorry, should I pause there and check if there's any questions? Have I lost anybody? Still okay? Still comfortable? I
All
need proof
good.
of all good. Thank you. Now I'm gonna be like a whenever I go to teaching prac and I assist teachers, and then the teacher asks the class, "Is everyone okay?" And then one student puts their hand up. I lose my mind because is that teacher moving on because one student said that they are okay and the other 29 in the class? So that means the rest of you quite happy to like, let me see who you are. I don't know all your names, but let's see. Um, I almost said, Eveline, are you okay? That's the other lecturer. um,
Hi, Willard. I'm okay.
Hi
Thank you.
there. Okay, okay. Bongani, some proof of life, please. Oh, yes, you're going. Oh, just away. Thank you. Shanice, proof of life. Are you fine, Lindy? Yeah, proof of life. Lizandre, thank you. Okay. See, now you can maybe move on you through lesson, Mr. Morgan. Okay. So again, like I said, let me know if I'm losing you. I might be going too fast. So it does happen when I get a bit excited, then I speak really quickly. So do stop me. Um, so like I said earlier on, this is I think what I'm working towards with you within this module, and I think within this specific this learning unit. Because I mean, this is maybe the one or few times that we get to focus on you. What is your role? How do you perceive it? How do you perceive being ethical within your role? So a few questions, and you see now you can choose to look away, you can choose to do something else, and you can choose how ethical a person you are if you're pretending to be in class but not in class. But I do want you to stop for a second. I know this is always a weird thing to do, but do have a look and consider some of these. I mean, the best thing is that you can't lie to yourself. Whatever you think, if I say, how do you measure up in the teaching competencies? I can go back to them if you don't know them. Maybe I'll do that. Have a look at some of them. I'll read them out to you and let's see. And you have to kind of measure yourself. I mean, if I ask you, you all say you're amazing and you're brilliant. But like if I asked you now, rate your subject knowledge. I did think about doing something like that, like getting a Padlet out or Mentimeter, but I mean, people would lie, and then I'd ask you how ethical you're being. But I guess ask yourself, how would you measure yourself in terms of subject knowledge? And think about that for a second, and pause on that for a second. Um, I'm gonna, I'm gonna skip slides a bit. Just bear with me. I say think about that because if we look at this theme over here, draw up a personal manifesto reflecting your objectives in fulfilling the various roles. Okay, so keep that in mind. And you went back here to this question that I'm asking you about, for example, sound subject knowledge. So if you know that you don't have the knowledge, you know, my manifesto would say to constantly pursue or try to work towards, stay on top of, stay abreast with developments in my subject area. I'm saying this to say when you have to write one up, I hope I hope you don't let Claude do it for you. You know, I think this is where I'm going to. Like it should mean something to you, and it should come from you. And we can do the same for the rest. Um, They must know their learners and how they learn, must understand their individual needs and tailor their teaching accordingly. So you've now seen some teachers in school. Yeah, you've seen them. Um, Look, I wasn't great in school, eh? I was horrible at most things as a teacher. It's quite that's why I like to lecture. I then talk about all the things that I did badly. Um, I was always really good at parent teachers evening. Others used to like hate it. I used to love it because I knew, although I didn't do many things right in my class, like I wasn't good at admin and all the other stuff, they were always calling me on the intercom for my register, like, Mr. Morgan, please send that stuff. Always late for the meeting because I was busy chatting to students in class at break time. But I knew my children. And so come parent teacher evening, I could tell you the why and the why behind the marks. Like I said, I wasn't good at everything. And so I think the point I'm getting at is kind of how much when you reflect on this for yourself, for your manifesto, um, how are you going to go about achieving some of these things? How are you going to treat some of the stuff that come up in your day-to-day life as a teacher? Um, so let me maybe skip forward a bit to what I hope is my exciting part. Um, Sorry. So what does it ask of the person standing in front of the class? So I thought to get away from the Mail and Guardian case study, but to still try to pose some questions, some real life questions. Okay, so full disclosure. Yeah, let me make this fun for you. There should be three scenarios here. This whole idea started off, I don't know why I was thinking about like myself and in relation to you and this thing of ethics, and it was at a weird like over the weekend or on Sunday or something completely crazy. Um, And then I then message or email the other lecturers and say, I'm really excited. So of these three scenarios, one of them is me. You get to guess them. Okay. So the first one, so like I said, I mean, one of them is me, and the other ones I tried to like use stuff that are generic and all around. So something like bullying in class. Um, it's often like dismissed as just normal behavior. Sometimes we escalate it when it gets really bad or when students are really complaining about it. And I think you all know it's an issue. It's quite a common issue. It is getting some more, I think, attention than it did a decade ago. Um, But so it's kind of always easy for teachers because we've got so much to do. We still have to do marking, and we still have our next class coming in, and the admin, and more admin, and um. So the question here is kind of what do you do, and what is the impact for you on the thinking about yourself? So how are you going to see instances? Bullying is just an example. It could be other things. So identify the bully, and then you apply a consequence, and you move on. Is you know, and I mean, I want you to. I can't answer this for you. This is a in your heart of hearts kind of answer. Oh, Rosandra, yes, you must shout at me. You know this. Go for it.
I know by now, sorry. Okay, just something very interesting. So I'm in a very la-di-da private school, right? So I'm not gonna name the school here in Pretoria. And I
Mm-hmm.
taught a lesson on bullying for the grade nines, right? And you know what was very terrifying for me? When I asked in 2026, do they experience physical bullying over online bullying? Mind you, it's a full tech exclusive school, so loads of the work is done on tablets and iPads and things like that. And they say their experience so far in high school is that they've been bullied more times in person than online. Just a crazy thought wanted to share. So do with that what you must.
I'm just throwing it out there. Oh, that's so interesting. Thank you. Please give me more. That's really cool. I actually was thinking of using the online bullying as an example, and I thought stick with a classic. I didn't actually do the research on the stats. That's really interesting. Um, Kind of makes sense though. But now, is it because there's no tech around, so they then resort to physical? Do you think, do you think if there was tech, there'd be more tech? If there was tech at school?
No, it's a full technical school, so they
Oh, I
can
thought you said
use
full
yeah,
ex. I thought you said
yeah,
full
no.
excluding tech, like no tech.
No,
Oh
they
wow! Oh
so
wow!
that is
Okay.
why my mind just went, what are you saying to me? And I thought, like, are you joking? And in my next class, I also taught bullying, but for grade eights, a filler class for one of the absentee teachers, and they said the same thing. But what I've noticed, our school is a bit more male dominant.
Mm-mm-mm.
So it might be like the hormones and the things and everything around that. But it was a bit weird because I'm like, this is not normal, according to me, according to the
Mm.
stats we receive. But yes, that was very interesting.
Oh, it really is. Oh, I see Taylor's hands up. Okay. I'm gonna rather bite my tongue, or I'll get. Go ahead, Taylor. I'm reading the comments. Go ahead.
So my school is very socioeconomically mixed, and also just culturally, racially, everything mixed. Um, and we deal with bullying by addressing microaggressions that we notice in class, like right off the bat. But my mentor teacher does it in such a way that it kind of makes the learners feel not bad about what they've done, but more like, whoa, I didn't think of it that way. Because, like, this one boy, he was swearing at his friend, or I'm not sure if they're friends, but they were swearing at each other and like going off at each other and started getting aggressive with one another. And she was like, "You are far too educated to be having those conversations and using those words." So she kind of like nips it in the bud by saying, "You are to this to be doing that." So she does a lot of like correction because they were also making homophobic jokes in the class as well today, and she corrected it so like seamlessly that no one really felt like called out, but more like we don't do that here. So that's how we deal with like microaggression in the
Mm-hmm.
classroom. But the school has like strict bullying policies, so we do have to report every instance of bullying.
Nice. Okay, I have a question, but for all of you, I see Wasima. Is it Wasima? That's if I ever say your name wrong, correct me. I mean, my name has been Willa Chips my whole life, so I know the feeling of people messing with your name. So
I don't judge. It's Wasima
thank
is
you.
correct. Yeah.
Great.
Um, Sorry, Taylor, were you still talking?
It's okay. She'll come back now. No,
Okay,
she's
okay, cool.
cool. No.
So
I'm all
just
good.
on okay. Just on this, funny you bringing this up now because just in the last 2 weeks at our school, what's been happening was you asking where does the au- control who's actually in control. But what we're finding at our school is that a lot of cyberbullying, it's after hours, is spilling into the school. So what starts off as a lot of cattiness back and forth, horrible things happening online, reaches a pinnacle, and then when the learners see each other at school, it becomes a physical fight.
Oh
Like we just
wow.
had two girls fighting in the toilet. So now the parents are expecting us to handle the situation, but actually, where does the accountability and where does the buck stop? Because at the end of the day, when the kids leave the school, they are not in our duty of care. And what they do after hours, it's for the parents to take responsibility and take accountability for your learners. Why they're up for the kids, why they're up at 3 o'clock in the morning sending TikToks and AI
Mm-hmm.
generated pics of learners and stuff like that. So in this instance, like what do you do? So we're actually having that type of dilemma, even though we've got policies in place. It's even gone as far as to go to the WCD, and it's now gone in legal direction in one of the instances because
Oh
parents
wow.
don't want to back down. So guidance from you would be,
Oh no. Oh, ooh, ooh, ooh.
oh,
I was about to cut you off for
insight.
now and say, if you think I've got the answer, I don't have that answer. Oh
Like
no. Oh no, no, no. Oh no, no.
that we don't know. We just,
No.
what
Oh
do you
no.
do? How do we say,
Yeah.
parents, you need to actually parent your kids?
Ooh, that's also a nice one. Man, that's you are kind of asking my question, but I'm glad it's on the screen. You're asking my question before I asked the question. I did see your hand come up now, but I want to say this before anyone else throws me off. Sarah, and you will definitely throw me off. So I'm gonna make you wait a second. I guess that is I mean, this is I want to say I think the beauty of the module. In the beginning, it's around how do you make an argument, how do you justify, so what are the various propositions? And I don't know if you gathered the same from the first assignment. Not saying there's no right answer. I mean, there were some that were, I'm joking when I said some were really wrong, but not really. Um, but how do you get to that? What's the process? Um, and I think you were getting there, and I'm glad in this example of yours that they've now gone to the law. So that means the state is involved, the parents are involved, the community is involved, and the individuals are involved. Hmm. I don't know. I mean, if that can't yield an answer, then whoa. I don't have that answer for bullying in particular. I do know that there must be a combination within our current system to address some of these things, and that everyone has to kind of start playing their part, um, which is what I'll get to now with the roles. But first, let's hear from Sarah, and then we'll talk about your part.
I just want to speak about the school that I'm at the moment, and then I'm sorry if I go off topic a little bit, but the school I'm at the moment doesn't have a discipline, like doesn't have like a protocol that they follow for discipline. They don't have detention, they don't have demerits or slips or anything. Obviously they will contact parents, but that's pretty much it. There's no way to deal with like small, because what happens is they'll only contact a parent if it's a big deal, because they don't want to contact parents, because I've heard from teachers it's like opening a can of worms.
Mhm.
So the small, it escalates because they don't deal with the small things. There's no repercussions for the small things. So then, there's no way to nip those things in the bud. Um,
Mm. I want to
so
ask for context, but I might get distracted as I'm trying to counsel you through this. But I'd like to know the context of the school. Is it rough there, and then things are always out of control, or is it quite a privileged school, but things come up and you feel quite powerless,
so
or
I would
down
say
the
that
middle?
I would say it's in the middle. It's a government school, but it is, because it's a specialized. I don't want to say what the school is, because
No,
it's
it's
a
cool.
specialized school. they have smaller classes, so it's not insane, especially in the classroom. Like in the classroom, most classes I have one awful grade 9 class, but the other classes
Always
lovely
grade nine.
students. Yeah, but there's one class that are angels and one class that are they're so tough.
Always
Yeah,
9F and 9A. 9F is the worst.
yeah.
Well, so yeah, I think you're all kind of bringing us closer to the answer. Not that there's, which isn't no answer. And I guess maybe my next question. I mean, you raise a really interesting point because there are so many counter arguments, which is back to this question of control. So many counter arguments. I mean, I'm sure in another school, someone would say, I wish we could do away with all the rules, and I wish we
I
could do
know,
away
and like
with
my
demerits, and we could give the
yeah.
power back to the teachers and the parents, or the power back to the individual. So again, another one of those fun ones to debate and make an argument for. I mean, if I said make an argument for or against, discipline in schools.
And honestly, if I was debating that before I started my teaching pack, I would say, don't do detention, don't do demerits.
I
But
love it.
I do find that it doesn't give a leg for, like, the teacher just has themselves to say you can't say this, you can't do this, because the behavior outside of the classroom, so bad, like hectic issues, not just like little naughtiness, it's hectic stuff. um
You see where Ubuntu comes in, and where you need some community to like help that out. Okay,
100%, 100%.
I think
But
that's a
anyway,
really good example. Yeah.
I would say that what I would do in a case of bullying, if it's a small thing, if it's a once off, um, I like the idea of dealing with things outside of like away from an audience, so away from the rest of the learners, um,
Amen.
and having a conversation to start with. Because even those naughty kids, one on one, you are able to relate to them.
They're
And
never
then,
naughty, man. They just need a little something. They
I'm
always
sorry, I'm not
need
allowed to
something.
use that word.
No, no, no. You can call them whatever you want to in this safe space. Oh no,
But yes,
call
yes,
them what
yes,
they are. Yeah, yeah.
yes.
But not
The
out
one,
there.
yeah.
They're not naughty. I mean, they're not. I mean, yeah.
But they're not exactly. They're not naughty. And then if
I,
it's a bigger thing, contact parents. You know, even though I do, in some cases, parents are the part of the problem, in my
oh
opinion.
yeah.
Yeah,
If not always. Again,
yeah.
like back to who should control education. So can we trust it with just parents? I love this, and I'm gonna get distracted and I want to get back on track. But this is the conversation that I wanted to have. I was appointed at a school once. I mean, I say this like cheekily, not like it happened a lot, but like a proper like head on to a school. And I didn't know when I got there like what the main thing was. So I had to come in and be the grade 11 head. I want to say the name of the school so badly. Um, and when I got there, obviously, like they wanted me to come for other stuff. Like I was really into entrepreneurship and doing cool things at schools and whatever, whatever, whatever. But also, there was this grade 11 group of boys. And the principal was very cool. Wasn't like those weird old school ones. Like very cool, in his style and everything. He said, "Look here, these guys, it's a group of them, and they could be great, or they could like tear down the school just because they were already like challenging the grade 12s for dominance of the school." And wow, I mean, a few months later, I would have not extra lessons, as in I would have to teach them extra because they were stupid. I know it's not the right word. I know I'm doing it for dramatic effect. And they were like these stupid guys who couldn't get it, and it wasn't mainly just guys. And eventually, like when we did those, like I don't know how, I can't remember like how I phrased it, like a support, or they just needed time to like do their homework. Yeah, I think we call it like a homework session, because they didn't want to go home and go do it at home. Or they never did it when they got home, or they felt lost and not sure what to do when they got home. Obviously, because they weren't listening in class, so they're completely lost when they got home, and then the cycle continues because the teacher's already written them off. I'm not saying I did the amazing thing, eh? I think it started off as a punishment when it started, and then I realized what they actually needed was just time. So it became an hour after school with them most days except for Fridays, obviously, for them to do work. Eventually, we got to a point like one of the cheekiest ones of them all, but he was also one of the smartest ones of them all. And he was only cheeky because he didn't like taking down notes. He would remember it. I hate it not. I say this again, tongue in cheek. This kid drove me nuts the first few months because he would just sit there and play and talk, grade 11. But then come test time, he would ace it. Like, ace it. And I was like, are you cheating? Or, you couldn't have cheated. And every time he did it again. Then I asked around, like, oh, he is clever. He is this bright. And he's an auditory learner. Like, he takes in everything that he hears. He doesn't have to, like, write it down. Or if he sees it, he takes it in off the, like, one of those memories. Anyway, Keenan, I think is his name, something like that. He ended up like teaching those kids after school, the other naughty boys. He would like run some of the classes and just like do extra lessons with them. I don't know what the long point of my story is, and maybe it's this next one, the next slide, which is all of this comes down to, and for me and my manifesto. I see your hand, Duduzile. Um, my question around your personal take and your manifesto and what you are going to do when you get out there. My fear often is that when you get out there into schools, you become like them. You don't stand up and be yourself. No offense, because those teachers are also bullies sometimes. No offense to any teachers on the call. But my question is, I speak about myself, but I only learned those things over time. I think only by like year 7 being in a school that I actually kind of started getting it. So I don't expect you to get it now either. Okay, for the sake of time, all I did here, I want to get to the next one, which is the roles, but I'll tell you what I did here. So all I did here was to take the case study like we spoke about and just link it back, and I'll post the slides and link it back to some of the theorists and like where that would sit in the view of state control or in the view of lock and parental control, which is a lot of what we said now. So for the sake of time, let me pause. Duduzile, you want to first talk, and then I'll keep going.
You can kind of wrap it up, so it's fine. I was just adding to the who is in
Oh,
control, because we had a
I'll come back.
situation where the kids were bullying the teachers in my school, and they threatened the kids, saying that the teacher was gonna open a whole case. I think also because someone said, isn't there a new law that says teachers can sue or like take it to the legal route? And one of the parents, also to say the parents don't assist, one of the parents was like, how can you be bullied by kids? That doesn't even make sense. You can't blame the kids for bullying an old person. And they had a whole group chat on WhatsApp where someone leaked the chat and they were talking about teachers and how teachers are this, they can't teach, they can't that, and so many other things. The teacher was literally crying in front of like the learners, and the learners were just laughing, like, yeah, that's what you did, that thing. And it's a private school, a, like a
Yep.
proper private school where you don't expect such things. Not saying that the government schools where you expect it, but you expect it more from like government schools because like everyone has this notion that they're unruly. But no one took
Ooh.
accountability. The principal was like, you guys are going to get sued. And there were kids that were saying, yeah, our parents are going to pay for it anyway. It's not like there's anything that's going to happen. So, yeah, I don't know what the
That's all right.
point.
I giggle because that's a good comment, and thank you for keeping your hand up. And I wasn't respond to the actual like the bullying and the parents. I was gonna say like around community, and I mean I can't offer the solutions, but I mean there are solutions. And I'm sure I wanted to say some of my colleagues if they wanted to jump in. But if my immediate response was those those American movies. There's so many of them. At one point, I was looking at like there's just so many of those. Someone comes in and saves the day. From the Morgan Freeman or Michelle Pfeiffer. I don't know if you're old enough for those, you people. Some of you might be. Sorry if I'm giving away my age. Um, but then I'm sorry I got distracted because now I'm again more interested in you and your view on government versus private and who should have different systems in place in that school. I don't want you to answer, don't worry. I'm intrigued more by that. And I feel like, maybe are you maybe part of the problem? I mean, if that's how you, if you are able to categorize things in that, I see your hand, Everjo, I see your hand. Similar to the teachers, to the parents that were being so aggressive with all the cases, like they've got a certain view of teachers. You've got a certain view. I'm just saying, I'm not picking on you, but I'm saying that's really interesting. I feel like that's all the same thing. This view, this world view that influences our actions and reactions. But let me hear from Everjoy, and then I must get through all examples, or you won't guess which one is mine. Okay. Who's I like
Hello,
that.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. My school is quite different. We have a lot of issues, and the one of the difficult things that I'm finding is really noticing all those things in class. Why? Because we don't have enough furniture. The school is very underfunded, and it doesn't have all the things that a school needs to have in order to function. They have teachers, yes, they've got good and proper teachers, but they do not have like the basic needs. There are no textbooks, there are no the chalkboards are not enough, there are no chairs, there are no desks. Sometimes you can go to a school and you find that kids are in class but they're standing and there's no place for them to sit. So now sometimes you find that kids do not attend school or do not attend classes or be just running outside because there's no way to sit in class. Now, my question now comes to how do I then control that class? How do I then notice all these other things? How do you notice the bullying while you have got all these other bigger issues that are going on?
Hmm. Yeah. Now I must watch my diplomatic tongue now. Don't know if anybody heard that. I had to put my ear kind of close to the speaker. Not no, don't worry, not your issue. I did hear, I did get it. If you didn't hear, it was just a very under-resourced school. Thank you, whoever is clicking admit and doing some of the admin there. Thank you. Um, so yeah, under-resourced school, overcrowded classes, children had to stand often to do the lesson, not enough textbooks, no funding, no one's helping. I mean, you've really just had to bring the hardest example of them all. I mean, like the hardest in terms of kind of heartstrings and emotion. My initial response was going to be very not dismissive isn't the word. And I hope it's not cheeky. And I guess comes back to my question, well, what is your personal manifesto? It's hard that you have to experience that. My first school I went to, the teacher I took over from was hit with a hammer by a grade 8 child. Like again, and luckily she blocked the child, but the child had broken her arm with a hammer, grade 8. So just to say, like I can hear you a little bit. But when I left that school, I cried like a baby because I was so sad to leave. But I had to leave because the principal was rubbish and he was sleeping with other teachers and yeah. So maybe that's a good kind of context. I've got many stories like that, just like horrible schools. And maybe it's a good place to start. So my cheeky answer was going to be, it just means more on you for those children. I don't know. I mean, obviously, there's a lot more you must do if you could do to get the community involved and to write letters for funding and all those rubbish examples I could give you of how you try to fix the bigger issue. But for the question of how do you get that child to come back to school, that's on you. It sounds horrible to say, but that's my dismissive answer. It's my feeling. It's on you. Some of those children in my class at horrible homes, some of them were like also it was a grade 8 class and grade 8 boy was the man of the house, and his mother would tell me that he can't come to school, he's got to do this, he's the man of the house. Um, so all I can say is like I had to create space for that child when he couldn't be there, make time for him afterwards. And when he was there, it had to be the best kind of like my kids always say, best day of my life. I've got babies and they say that for every day, by the way. Best day of my life. So I'm gonna jump ahead to this, and I don't know if I answer your question directly. I do see your hand, Strauss, and I almost want to save you for last because I know you're gonna hit me with one. But let me, Strauss, can I run through, or do you have okay? Go, give a quick comment, and then I'm gonna run through these.
Okay, Sheldon, I'll just keep it short and sweet. For interest sake, it's another like case such as those that were mentioned, but now out of my own experience. So there was something that happened yesterday. So it is a type C school, and I must say it's well supported by the community, but there's one particular class that is a bit notorious. And what happened is, long story short, they were pretty much going on like, scavengers do, like jackals, wild dogs, like where they were kind of like but this was like in terms of the group dynamics, like where a dog or, like a scavenger, they will like bite from behind, so to speak. And then when, the animal in the middle turns around, then the next one will come. They always like liberty, like that, take or like a dirty shot, so to speak. But the thing is, the way that it happened is some kids started making animal noises. And then I said, this is not the time and place. I just reprimanded it. Then a kid behind me did it. When I turned around and my back was towards where I just faced, then they did it again. So the thing is that then I told the teacher, and long story short, I chatted to people because I just said, I'm a very chilled guy, but I feel like this has to be addressed because otherwise they're going to think that they're going to get away with it. So what we're arranging is they're going to sit detention through break one of these coming days. Because I just thought, no. If I let this one slide, then they're going to think I'm easy bait, and I think they're just going to go for it again. So, because I just thought, like, no, you need to nip this in the bud right now so that it doesn't escalate. Because I just think, and it's interesting because, like I said, I'm generally a very chilled guy, but I felt like with this crowd, because I've been the same to them as I have with everyone else, but words are not working over here, so they need to, we need to take a different approach.
If only I had more time. This is like my favorite kind of stuff to talk about. Not that I've got the answers. This is like my favorite. Like there's so many things there, like treating them the same like everyone else. Maybe they're not. And I'm always gonna blame you, eh? Just all of you, just so you know that. I'm always gonna blame the teacher because like out of all of them, there's only one adult in the room. And I don't think I've got all the answers. I just know that I have like you have to consider today a fail and tomorrow a do-over. And can you do it better tomorrow? Maybe the detention helps. And my first question is, what are you doing in that detention? Is it just a punishment where they sit there? Because we go back to that earlier question about discipline and what discipline to have. Is the detention. And I mean, I've done my fair share. I've made children line up and just practice walking to class at break time because they couldn't line up properly. And in front of the whole school, they have to just walk in and out of my class the entire break. So I'm not saying that I've got all the answers, Strauss. I've done all of it. But I think for you, this is great for you. Like this is what's gonna keep you strong when you're in the trenches. Is this experience? It's not easy being a student teacher. And if you're a permanent teacher, you might have had other kind of more time with them, etc. See how I get distracted, all of you.
But for well, last comment I had is with the same group, with the same class. What happened previously is they were talking because they were doing an open book assessment individual, so they could share books, but they couldn't discuss. And then the teacher was the mentor teacher. She was like, okay, if you talk, Mr. Strauss is gonna deduct one. So then some kids are talking, I write -1 on their paper, stuff like that. And the thing is, then all of a sudden they saw, okay, now I'm for real. And then I was like, okay, if you keep quiet, we can talk later. But the one student, she's like, sir, are you really going to deduct the marks? I was like, well, what does minus mean? And then they were like, okay, this guy's for real. But the thing is, I think now they're really trying to push it like, see, oh, is this guy for real? So I was like, oh, no, well, it's fine. We'll talk one of the break times.
You see, I knew you distract me. I almost told another story now. I must stop. Okay, let me go. I almost told another one. Let me just run through this quickly. So, again, when I say about the teacher, I don't think you've got all the answers. And yeah, I do sound like those people that blames the teacher. Not for everything. I just think that there's like great power in being a teacher and a lot of opportunity to do great things. So look at this bullying thing, for example, and just some examples of. So I took the roles of the teacher from the Mr. Tech document, the MRT EQ document, one of the policies that you should know. If you don't know it, you must know it. That's your Bible. Not actually, sorry, not your Bible, but that's important to understand like the role of the teacher and how qualifications in education works. So look at a few examples. I'll go quickly. So, if you take on the role as a learning mediator, so when I showed you these roles earlier on, I mean, they sound quite flat. Like, what does it mean? So it doesn't just mean in your subject area. And that's what I always like to tell people, like your subject and the teaching of your actual subject, that's half the job. So I think some of you refer to this, like, how do you have, for example, like, and some of you mentioned this, so I'll go quickly. So a guided conversation around bullying, rather than just a one-way telling off. So that person that said the teacher was quite good at saying stuff like whatever, how would you feel? I don't know. Is that the right way? I don't want to judge, but is that enough to just tell them off, or do they go do it to somebody else? You turn the incident into curriculum. And as someone said that you teach bullying in class, but so can you teach from that incident, from that moment? And obviously, these all sound airy-fairy, but if you add them all up, and if you can internalize them as part of your personal manifesto, that you go beyond is what I'm trying to get to, or you see linkages between real life and your job as a teacher, and in real life, I mean incidents, and that those people in front of you are people, Some of them are more interested in like the pimples on their face, or that's what they're interested in. They just remember when you were at school. Um, I'm gonna get the next example. So, as a leader and administrator, what would be your role? Sorry, are you still there? I feel like I lost power for a second. Is everyone still there? My lights went on, but everything seemed to still be on here. Okay, cool. Um, so if you're a scholar, a researcher, and a lifelong learner, you can look at this pattern. So those schools, that school that you find so weird, that's a small school and it shouldn't be like this because it's a private school. Has it always been like that? And I mean, so you could really start looking into it a bit more. Okay, I'm gonna rush to my next one, which is a popular one, and I think I like this one. So this is about I try to do something around home language and being taught in a language that isn't your home language. So I'll sum this up. But it's a student who's transferred from a school to a grade 4 class, and now being forced to work and be assessed in English. I know there's a whole debate around this, around language, legislation. But again, I blame you, is my slogan. I'm not going to get into this now. I'm more interested in you. So I just took four roles. I mean, there's more to discuss in debate, but just to make my point. So if you were the teacher in that scenario and you mark that student down the first time, cool. And the second time you see it again, are you just thinking the person doesn't understand and that they are confused? Or is it a translation delay? Is there something more there? It's not just a misunderstanding. You understand like my point? So if you can start like thinking about it, but out of the box, not just marking the person down, not seeing their side, and then using that information, how do you kind of build strategies to bridge that in your lesson? Because now you can't blame the teacher. You can tell the parent that the child is struggling, but what are you going to do? You can't just say they're struggling, go get them extra help. I mean, I cannot for that. Okay, so what can you do within your space? Another big one, flags the transition to the HOD, request language support. I know this sounds like very fancy and who has time for it? You do, because you are special and you're amazing. You care about your job and the people in front of you. So you do. You aren't there to teach the A student. I mean, yes, you are to help them, but sorry, this is my own personal stuff. I feel like we often forget that we're there to also help those that are struggling or those that should be an A, but they're not an A. Okay, let me just get my last one so I can at least leave a minute for time for questions if there are any. The one more. So family relocates from the US and they come back from the US, back to South Africa is the summary of the story. When they get back, the child is put forward because the government doesn't understand like the system that they came from. The child is stuck in this class, stuck in the same cycle, youngest in class, and therefore, whenever something goes wrong, the teachers blame the child and say, "You're too young for the class, you're too young for the class." Or the student doesn't do well, "You're too young for this grade." But actually, one of the brightest in the class, and the only time that the teacher actually goes off is when the teacher's angry about something else and then decides to shout, or etc., etc. And it keeps happening. There was not really an end to the story. It was just like the teachers at that time, the school at that time, the parents at that time, the state at that time. You know, there's no bad ending to the story. No one went and kind of did something harm themselves, or so it doesn't end like that. The question was just around, what happened in that in terms of your role, and what happened in terms of, I mean, I do worry, what are other teachers' personal manifestos when they go into class? So a true mediator does not label, okay? Knows their learners are and how they learn. Um, you have to be able to look at the learner and assess them properly. So if the student is always doing well and they did poorly in one test, is that then the time to lose your mind, or what happened, or so your reaction to those situations. From an administration perspective, because this issue happened grade to grade to grade for this person. Was there no handover? Is there no meeting at the end of the year where teachers hand over files? I know I've done that. You hand over files of your students to the next teacher, and then you point out anything like worth noticing. So those are systems that should be in place in school. And then, I guess to reflect critically on your own practice is always, I mean, I think that kind of goes without saying. I really wanted to get back to the rural school example, but for the sake of time, I've got 2 minutes left. So then I said, like, there are other scenarios like this that you could map out. So WhatsApp groups, when students come home after being homeschooled, they're being labeled as lazy. If you have you see here, a teacher manages 45 learners in an under-resourced classroom. I can't do that for you. And I mean, all I hope is that I've kind of planted the seed a little bit, that it's always your fault. Okay. It's not always. But yeah, okay. Very quickly. Are there any questions from your side? Sorry, I know I didn't leave much time. Is that like complete happiness? Or you're done now at 7 o'clock? Sorry, I know the feeling. I guess from my colleagues on the call, I'm not leaving you enough time to say anything, and I'll let you judge me later. But is there anything else that I might have missed or you wanted to say or add? No? I did say no one had to talk. So okay. Happiness. Okay, everybody. Um Sorry, I think I might have had more fun than you. But thank you for being here. And like I said, if there's any kind of admin stuff and assessment questions, your lecturers haven't left you. They're still your person. Okay. Cardboard gangsters. I love it. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much, and for your participation. It was really fun. Thank you to the people who attended, who I didn't know, and now know me, and yeah, really appreciate it. All the best. Keep well.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Good night, everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
So are we gonna get the slides?
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Mr. Morgan,
Yes, for you.
are we going to get the slides?